ESPN Radio. Don't miss Dayton's top-rated local sports talk show, Kinner and Kev. Hang out with the guys weekdays at 3 p.m. as they talk Buckeyes, Bengals, Browns, Reds, and yes, your Wright State Raiders. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. Presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken.
All right, everybody, welcome in. It's the Kinner and Kev show here on a Tuesday, but it feels like a Monday, and that's because it technically is our Monday, but it doesn't matter. We're coming out of an extended holiday weekend. Hope everyone enjoyed the Memorial Day weekend, of course, off and rolling here on a Tuesday. I'm Justin Kinner. He's Kev Nash. Mr. Kev Nash, welcome.
What up, though?
We're live on a few places right now.
Indeed. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook, Chatterbox Sports. We're everywhere.
Absolutely. And again, most importantly, live on the old school dial, 1410 Wing AM, streaming on the iHeartRadio app, of course. We got a ton to get into today. Coming up here in a little bit, we'll be joined by ESPN's Dan Murphy. Dan Murphy, of course, anytime there's any kind of, legal drama involved in anything in the world of sports, he's been our go-to guy, going back to the Urban Meyer stuff at Ohio State, not really like legal, but any kind of drama, if you will. But nonetheless, the NCAA settlement that recently went down, it kind of happened in the tail end of last week, of course, but heading into the weekend, first time we've been on the air to really kind of, pick through that a bit. He's going to kind of give us a little bit of insight to it. And the reason I wanted him to come on is because some of you are saying, well, who cares? We'll worry about that later. This is a big deal because we follow a couple mid-major basketball teams here in town, or at least teams that play in mid-major conferences that will be drastically impacted by this decision. So he's going to tell us how,
right,
and whether or not we should be concerned. So ESPN's Dan Murphy coming up around the corner. The Reds have found themselves in a little bit of a, what we call that. Come on, Kev, you're a fan of a winning team. What's that called?
Winning streak?
A win streak, yeah. I was going to say it's losers over here. I don't know what that's called or what that's like. It's been kind of nice to experience that. But what's that? Is it Memorial Day when people say that's when you can really start to panic or at least buy in? So with that being said, Reds are in a weird spot, but your Guardians, you're buying in, right? They have the third best record in baseball. I think they've played well enough, consistently enough, long enough to buy in.
Yeah, they just got their 9-game winning streak snapped yesterday to the Colorado Rockies. I believe it was 3 series in a row. They swept. My Guardians did. Awesome feeling to be here all the way at Memorial Day, the unofficial start to the summer, to have a baseball team that's in first place, that's playing some good baseball. And like I always say, I'm not the biggest baseball fan in the world. I just really want the baseball team that I follow get me through the All-Star break. Keep me interested to the All-Star break. If you get me past that, then my expectations will ramp up, and then I'll continue to follow what's going on. And I'm just hype about it, man. I'm hype about my favorite baseball team.
Cincinnati Reds coming up in action again, coming up here in just a little bit. 6:40 the first pitch, 6:10 coverage begins. And the Reds will have Andrew Abbott on the mound. And look, Abbott, 3-4 in the season. I don't really care about the record. I don't care about the ERA and all that fun stuff, because as of right now, the one thing that's been most consistent about the Cincinnati Reds, something that Guardians fans are very, very used to, and that's pitching. There's a reason that, a lot of times when the Guardians are expected to finish at the bottom of their division or not be a very good team, it's because that lineup was abysmal, right? Mm-hmm. But every year when we head into a season where the Guardians are supposed to not be as good as what they end up being, it's because that lineup, the front office for the Guardians usually doesn't do a whole lot in the offseason as far as adding pieces to that lineup that make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside. And, you're kind of bored with the Biebers, and even though he's been out for the season, you're kind of bored with the big name pitchers that the Guardians have had year in and year out. Now, the Reds have always had some pop in their lineup. They've had some, bigger name hitters in their lineup compared to the Guardians. But what they've never had is what the Guardians have had, and that's starting pitching. And we had Sam LaCure. I remember doing the show from Hamilton in the Chatterbox Studios a few weeks ago. Elliot helped fill in that day for Kev, and we had Sam LaCure on the show. And the one thing I brought up to Sam LaCure was, I'm being negative. You see the record that they have to have. They had to finish I think they have to finish 15 to 18 games above 500 the rest of the way just to get to about that 85 win mark. And I'm like, that number right there is why I'm like, I can't buy in necessarily. But at the end of the day, when you look at how good the pitching has been, you have a hot little streak with the bat in the hands of these guys. All of a sudden, they look like a much different ball club. And he talked about that. The most important thing, the most difficult thing to do is to secure the pitching, secure the arms. And that's something that the Reds have never been able to do, or they'll get one or two, and then they have to go get a Trevor Bauer, and they have to trade for a Sonny Gray. Then you don't have money to put elsewhere. Right now, they have all their ducks in a row. Everything that they have is within the rotation that's been kind of basically homegrown to a certain extent. They've added some pieces here and there, but not big money guys. But right now, the hitting has finally caught up with the pitching. They're in a 4-game win streak, all right? And they swept the Dodgers. Okay, they won the series against the season series against the Dodgers. They extended the win streak to 4 yesterday with the win over the Cardinals. They got the Cardinals coming up again here later on tonight, as we talked about, 6:40 the first pitch. And at the end of the day, I'm seeing a lot of people do this all day. Well, do you buy in? Are you believing it? And the bottom line is, as I reach over to pull up this schedule real quick just to make sure we're all on the same page, after this series with the Cardinals, they go right into a series with the Cubs. Okay, these divisional opponents, very important, these divisional series. Then you got the Rockies, and you got the Cubs again, a very important series mid-June against Kev Nash's Cleveland Guardians, right? And then you got Milwaukee and Pittsburgh. You went a month and a half, 2 months without playing hardly anyone to basically nobody in your division. And right now, we talked about how brutal the month of May was going to be schedule-wise. They've kind of made it out on the other side, limping. They're hurt. They're beat up mentally, emotionally, physically. They don't have a whole lot. But right now, they've put it behind them a bit. And it's funny how 4 games can totally change how you view and feel about a season. Because I'd given up. I can lie. I'd given up. I'm over them not producing run-wise. I'm over them being so inconsistent and constantly getting injured. And I'm over the David Bell talk. I'm over the cheap Castellini talk. I'm over all that. I want them to go back to what they were doing last year, which was winning. It's a small sample size, a 4-game win streak, but a sweep over the Dodgers, getting a game 1 win against a divisional opponent. The Cardinals last night, looking to extend it to 5 wins tonight, winning the series tonight. I think that this is a very important game coming up here tonight because I think fans are starting to be excited about this 4-game win streak. But I think increasing it to 5, winning the series against the Cardinals after sweeping the Dodgers, now I think there's something to cook with here. Very important series with Andrew Abbott on the mound coming up here later on tonight.
I would take it from this angle. I think it's so important for them to win tonight because of the fact that they were on that losing streak and on that losing streak going into a holiday weekend. With holiday weekends, man, some people are traveling. Some people aren't even watching the games because they're so busy cooking out, or if they got it on, it's background noise as opposed to watching the game. But guess what? People are done cooking out. People are done eating leftovers. People are going to actually have a home cooked meal or maybe just order some pizza and actually make it appointment TV to watch the game because they have won 4 in a row and they kind of missed it. So now the worst thing you can do is have everybody excited to see you play again because they've been so busy with, holiday stuff and traveling, yada, 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 to sit down on the couch, turn on the TV or listen right here on 1410 Wing AM and lose. That's the worst because everybody now is like, you just talked about well, wait, all right, are we finally turning around? Let me go check them out. You don't want to build them up to disappoint them.
Kenner and Cat, 1410 ESPN Radio with you live on 1410 Wing AM, streaming live on the iHeartRadio app. We're live on ESPN Dayton's YouTube channel, the Justin Kenner Show Facebook page, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. Scott Campbell, he messages into the show right off the bat. He says, let's go Reds. I mean, that message was waiting for us before the show even started. So shout out to Scott as far as that's concerned. Roger agrees with him. All caps Roger. He says, agreed, Scott, in all capital letters.
Roger that, Roger.
All caps Roger coming in. Now, Chad Kinser, he messages into the show. Chad, I hope you're doing well, sir. He says, hey, Kenner, did you see the Michigan pitcher get caught cheating? I did not.
What?
I did not.
Shaw?
I mean, come on. You might be overreacting. I think everyone's doing it, right? Is that what I have not seen this. So, you know what? Let's go to the old Twitter machine. I'm going to type in Michigan pitcher cheating, and let's see what pops up on the old twitter.com machine. The first one I see is update F word Michigan. So whatever. I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, I'm going to look into that a little bit more so that we're not just throwing, names and guys under the bus until I know.
Willie Weiss.
Okay, so there's a name.
Good old Willie.
We got a name. What did Willie do, Kev?
Is this old? This seems old.
Oh, they've been doing this a while. Chad, do me a favor. So, Chad, you've seen something involving a Michigan pitcher cheating. So go ahead and send it in so I kind of have an idea of what you're referencing or talking about, so we can educate the people on what the cheating athletics department at Michigan is up to nowadays. Yeah, I said, man, that was old. He said, yeah, that was a year ago. People never forget. We don't forget.
Yeah, this is a year. This is actually in 2022.
Damn it. You could have just left it. So it's 2 years
Pine
ago.
tar.
Damn it, Chad. What are you doing? Now Shaw's going to feel himself. He's going to be like, oh, Kenner, this is what we get. Scott says maybe Shaw recorded the Michigan game so we can go to the tape.
Well, you know what? The football team saw good old Willie cheating, so they started cheating.
Yeah, see, it all started with the baseball team.
Aha.
I think our guy Randy Scott here, I think he's a Michigan guy, so he's all upset. He said, man, that was a year ago with 3 explanation points. It wasn't just like 1 or 2.
2 years ago.
Fact checker right off the bat. As far as that's concerned. Look, we get into some more red stuff coming up around.
They're not denying it, though.
Yeah, so you're not denying it. You're just saying, come on, man, the statute of limitations as far as when you're allowed to react to something, Oh, man. Kenner and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio. We'll continue to follow this, too. We'll get back to some red stuff coming up around the corner. I know there's a ton of stuff we got to catch up on coming out of the weekend. Bengals OTAs. Look, I get Bengals fans are getting a little tired of Adam Schefter. And I'm seeing where the Bengals
getting tired of Adam Schefter or getting tired of Justin Kenner?
No, Adam. Well, me. I don't think. But Adam Schefter is doing his job, right? Technically, I'm doing mine. That's what some people don't get. But Adam Schefter doing his job and framing things a certain way to induce panic amongst Bengals fans and stuff, like with the T. Higgins thing and OTAs today. And I'm here to tell you, I'm not going to be one of those guys. But things were framed a certain way. We'll get into that coming up around the corner. Let me look at my notes. So what do we got on deck for the day as far as that's concerned? There's a little health scare for old Mike Tyson.
Yeah, I saw that.
But he tweets out, now feeling 100%, even though I don't need to beat Jake Paul. I love Mike Tyson. We get a TBT update. The Red Scare adds another former Wright State Raider to the roster.
Really?
I mean, every year they love to add those Raiders, not to the schedule, of course, but to the TBT roster as far as that's concerned. Continuing to go down this list, yes, we got a lot of stuff to get into. Deshaun Watson comments on the Browns' biggest rival. It is not the Cincinnati Bengals, according to him. We'll get to that. Heather Dinich, who will be on the show with us later on this week, she put out an article regarding basically just college football playoff 101 for this upcoming historic season. Basically, how does it work, rules, important dates, and more. We have that coming up around the corner.
Rules
as well.
are the rules.
So, absolutely. Let's talk a little Bengals OTAs coming up on the other side. Kenner and Cap, 1410 ESPN Radio.
sure you've liked and followed the Justin Kinner Show on Facebook. Enter contests, weigh in on the latest sports debates. Plus, you can watch Kinner and Kev weekdays at 3 p.m. Yeah, as if listening to them isn't bad enough. Now you can see them. Reds, Bengals, Browns, Buckeyes, and more. Follow the Justin Kinner Show on Facebook. Don't miss Kinner and Kev, weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. Buckeye fans, don't miss Dayton's own Keith Byers every Wednesday at noon on The Keith Byers Show, presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken. Don't miss Dayton's top-rated local sports talk show, Kinner and Kev. Hang out with the guys weekdays at 3 p.m. as they talk Buckeyes, Bengals, Browns, Reds, and yes, your right state Raiders. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Andrew Abbott on the mound tonight for your Cincinnati Reds. Game 2 between the Reds and the Cardinals. 6:10 coverage begins. 6:40 the first pitch. All right here on Dayton's radio home of Cincinnati Reds baseball. 1410 Wing AM. I'm Justin Kinner. He's Kev Nash. Mr. Kev Nash, welcome back.
What up, though?
So coming off of the 3-day weekend, of course. Did you do anything fun over the 3-day holiday weekend?
Man, I had an active weekend. Comedian Donnell Rollins, who's a resident of the area now.
Yeah.
He has his Donnell Land weekend up there in Yellow Springs. So he had a celebrity kickball game on Saturday, comedy show at Wiley's on Saturday as well. They rode the river over the weekend as well. So I was up there participating in some of those events. And then probably the best thing that happened to me over the weekend, I'm a huge sneaker guy. Now, that being said, this year, I've only bought 2 pairs of sneakers, which is very good for me. But I was able to get a pair of Travis Scott's. Travis Scott has a collaboration with Nike/Jordan brand. These are one of the most coveted sneakers in the sneaker community, and I was able to get them for retail price. I am so excited. I'm so happy. Can't wait for them to be delivered.
I'm very happy that you work in radio and bathe in money to do that. Now, so how many pairs of shoes do you own that you don't wear?
That I haven't worn yet?
Are there, do you get specific pairs that you're like, I'm never?
No. All my sneakers that I buy, I plan on wearing.
Okay. So that okay.
Yeah, I'm not one of those. I'm gonna just collect them and just put them up. No, if I buy it, I'm wearing it. Now,
what's the limit though? You wear them like once?
No, I'm gonna wear them. I'm gonna wear them. I'm gonna wear them out. I'm wearing them. Their shoes are meant to be worn, man.
So how many different pairs though?
Oh man, I'm
when you do the show from home, you have all the collection behind you. I've seen, so I'm just curious. Like that's just a little zoned in.
Yeah, I got shot. Quite a few. There's they have 4 walls in a room. If you can dig my drift.
Fair enough.
There's 4 walls in a room.
Does Shayla know about all these rooms?
Well, she has a wall of her own, so I'm not the only one that has a sneaker problem.
Fair enough. But not a whole lot. I mean. So let's see what happened over the weekend. Not a whole lot. I had a little bit too much to drink one night.
Yeah.
And then the wife got mad because couldn't get the car home. So then I didn't come home when I was supposed to. So it was just holiday drama.
Well, speaking of drinking, I did.
It's not my fault. I'm sitting at the bar though. And these guys get every time they come up to get their drink, then you start talking to random people and everyone's coming up buying shots for people. Then you feel like you got to buy shots for people. And then, I had to go.
You did the responsible thing. You did not get behind the wheel. So you should be commended for that.
I did not. But,
Definitely be commended for that. No, I did the 75 hard challenge. I completed that.
Refresh people what that is.
So the 75 hard challenge is a mental tough challenge. People look at it as a fitness challenge. It's a mental tough challenge where for 75 days, you do 5 things. 1, you commit to a diet for 75 days. 2, you do at least 1 outside workout and an additional workout indoors. So 2 45-minute workouts a day. 1 has to be outside. Read 10 pages of a book and drink a gallon of water. I completed that challenge. So I'm super proud of myself. Now with that, there's no alcohol consumption during that period either. So I am around like 85 days of no alcohol. And over the weekend, we went to go get tacos and I, resisted the urge to get a margarita. Look at me. Look at me.
You're still continuing the habits.
I'm definitely continuing the water habits as people see me run out of this studio, run to the bathroom a lot. The only thing I haven't been doing like super consistent is 2 workouts. I always make sure I do at least 1 workout now. And I haven't been reading like that. So I've kept some of the stuff, but like the alcohol thing, I just haven't had the urge to, but I do have a vacation coming up. So I'll get a little weird on my vacation.
Fair enough. But Kidder and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio. We hope everyone enjoyed their weekend and getting back in the groove of things a little bit, man. Getting back into the shorter week as far as that's concerned. ESPN's Dan Murphy. We're going to catch up with him here in just a little bit regarding the NCAA settlement. The NCAA has agreed to allow schools to directly pay players in college sports. The NCAA will pay more than $2.7 billion in damages over 10 years to past and current athletes. They also have a revenue sharing plan with athletes worth up to $20 million yearly, according to ESPN. So we'll get a little bit more explanation on what this means, of course, across the board from ESPN's Dan Murphy in just a little bit. And the one thing when I was talking with him earlier today about, some of the other things we're going to talk about is everyone talks about what this means for, your typical Power Fives, your Big Tens and your SECs and all that. But, from a college basketball perspective, Dayton Flyers playing the A10.
Yeah.
That's not a high major conference by any means. And I don't think that's a conference that's going to be flourishing in funds due to some, what I mean? Like there's going to be a lot of things that change. The Horizon League is definitely not a conference that flourishes in funds as far as that's concerned. So the bottom line is how is that going to impact conferences like that? So we'll get into that coming up here with Dan Murphy here in just a little bit. Talked about a little bit ago. You saw that Mike Tyson, who has that big fight with it is. Look,
it is.
Call it
it's
you
huge.
want, but it's a big fight with Jake Paul. When is that coming up, by the way? I think it's in June, right? It's in June, so it's not too far off. But Mike Tyson apparently had a health scare in an elevator recently, and that kind of was making the go round. I was reading the tweet a little bit ago. He said that he's back to 100%, but he doesn't need to beat Jake Paul when it's all said and done.
It goes down Saturday, July 20th, which happens to be my mom's 20th. Birthday. That's my mom's birthday.
So he has a month and a half to get right. But that was interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, so just not to be like that guy, but just to correct you, it was on a flight. He had a medical scare.
My fault.
And like that's probably like the worst place in the world to have like a medical scare, man. I mean, you are in a metal tube in the sky. Like, there's nothing you really can do. So I just wonder like what actually happened. Courtney just came nauseous and super dizzy and everything like that. So, he's doing better now. So shouts out to Mike Tyson.
So speaking of a metal vessel, all right, speaking of this, you see this too? So apparently an Ohio billionaire from Dayton is planning to take a sub down to the Titanic site to prove a point.
Oh, gosh.
To prove a point. Now, this Ohio billionaire, his name is Larry Connor. All right. He will take a $20 million submarine vessel down to the Titanic wreck site to prove industry is safe after the OceanGate incident. You remember that?
Yeah.
When everyone at work is just following this story unfold where they think they could hear people pounding on the vessel down low and all of this, he will be joined by the CEO of Triton Submarines, Patrick Laney. Now, let's get this clear. And first of all, I never want anything bad to happen to anyone. Let's say these two do make it down there and they do their excursion and they make it back up and everything's fine. They get to come back up and say, see, told you everything was fine. No, because one fatality is one fatality too many in these circumstances. And I'm here to tell you, the ocean terrifies me. Big bodies of water terrifies the living blank out of me. As far as that's concerned, this doesn't impact my view of this whatsoever. The Titanic, very, very interesting. Still would not get in a submarine vessel to go explore this thing down through the depths of the ocean. But, so let's say he makes it down there. They go through the excursion. They come back up. Everything's fine. Is Kev Nash saying, sign me up, Mr. Billionaire with all your shoes over here, Mr. Kev Nash?
That would be a no, dog. It's a no for me. So I think they're missing the point here. The point is the initial vessel made it down there safely multiple times. It was just that one time after the pressure had built up after so many times. They retire airplanes after so many miles in the sky. And even though they come back with FDA checks and all that type of stuff, like, yeah, this still can fly, but they just recommend, it's had X amount of flights over this amount of time. We recommend that you retire it. There's going to be a situation where, hey, man, this vessel was good for 1 or 2 tries. The third time, el collapso. And I'm pretty positive that they're going to go down there and make it back.
Yep.
What happens the second time when you take that vessel down there? The third time, the fourth time? Is it going to be the fourth time, the fifth time? At some point, it's going to crush like a metal can, just like all the other ones did. Now, I am not as smart as none of these people, but I'm smarter than that. I'm smarter than that to go down to the bottom of the ocean. And not to derail this conversation, but, I feel much like you about the bottom of the ocean. There's so many things living down there that we don't know anything about. If you want to take yourself on a crazy, crazy YouTube journey, go ahead and Google space. Like space is really the ocean. They have some crazy theories that I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but they say, no, outer space, there's nothing in outer space. The outer space that we think like all these monsters and aliens and stuff like that are really here, but it's inverse. It's in the ocean. And I mean, come on, explain a shark, explain the octopus, explain something that breathes underwater. Sounds like space to me.
All right, Justin Kinner, Joe Rogan with you here, 1410 ESPN Radio. Kev Nash breaking out the conspiracies. Well, if you stop on the shoes, man, But nonetheless, speaking of a sinking ship, Angel Hernandez, the worst umpire of all umpires, randomly just calls it quits in the middle of a season. That's odd to me. Speaking of conspiracy theories, very, very odd to me that Angel Hernandez, again, the most disliked umpire, official in any sport, if you will, has called it a career after what? I don't even remember the total number of years that he's been doing this, but I'm tired of hearing that name. I'm tired of everyone just blasting this dude.
Over 30 years.
This dude welcomes it. This dude welcomes it. And it's like he's consistently trying to make controversial calls just to prove a point that, he's not going to, be bullied into a call. But Angel Hernandez, again, set to retire, much aligned MLB umpire, calling it quits. According to this article that I at least have up from USA Today, it's all over the place. But nonetheless, the thing about this that drives me nuts is because I'm not one of those blame the umpire, blame the official type of guy. But I look at umpires and officials the same way you're supposed to look at like journalists and reporters. They always tell you, you're not the story.
Right.
Okay. Now, I'm not a journalist. You're not a journalist. Like we're not like we're
talking heads.
We're talking heads. We're opinion givers as far as that's concerned. But in the media, you are taught, as a journalist, when you're out covering an event, you're not the story.
Right.
Don't make yourself the story. And that's kind of how I view officials too. And it's not like, talking about the call after a game. You could talk about a bad call after the game. I know Bengals fans still talk about the Super Bowl against the Rams. I'm here to tell you, I don't know who the hell made that call. But we talk about the call. You're going to talk about the calls. All right. The officiating crew that called the women's Final Four between UConn and Iowa. The controversy of, you don't make that call there. I'm here to tell you, I don't know who those officials are. I can't tell you. It's not talking about the call that's the problem. But when you're able to actually call it like TV Teddy Valentine, I have a problem with you. I have a problem with Angel Hernandez. I have a problem with officials who have almost tried to make it a brand to be bad at their job. And I have a problem with that as far as that's concerned. I just find this fishy, Kev, after 30 plus years of being, a Major League Baseball umpire all of a sudden just magically calls it quits, not even at the halfway point of this season. And he's already been in the headlines quite a bit already, tossing managers, player blowups, all this other stuff. Like I said, your calls could be the story because if they're coming at peak times of games, but when your name is the story constantly, I don't respect that. Like TV Teddy, we talked about. I just don't like when the names of the officials.
Scott Foster from the NBA.
Yeah, and that's the Chris Paul thing and all that stuff. Tired of that. That should not be a story ever.
Yeah, this situation, man, something's gonna come out. Something's gonna come out is basically the league probably told him, hey man, this is your last year. And he just probably said, oh, okay, well, I'm just done now. Got to be a situation like that. Just so much around him for so many years. And like, you're right. Like, you look at the NFL, like, we don't know who made these calls. We just know, like, all right, it was a bad call. The refs are cheating. The league wants this team to win or whatever. But, like, in baseball especially, like, they can control the game. Like, all referees can control the game. Let's be clear. Like, hey, man, if a ref feels like calling holding every time, they're going to call holding every time. They want to call a foul, they're going to call a foul in basketball. But a guy like this controlling the emotions of baseball players, controlling when he's going to give guys the heave-ho. Like, and the heave-ho in basketball is different. It's you get a tech and you get another tech. But in here, like, hey, man, I don't like what you just said to me. You getting up in my face, you kicking dirt on my shoes, you're out of here. Just like that. So the ability to control games by one individual and just to be disliked by basically the entire league, like, that's a rarity. Like, we joke about, the Chris Paul situation and Scott Foster. Who likes Scott Foster? Whoever Chris Paul's team isn't going up against. You know what I'm saying? Like, but this guy seems like everybody hates him. Like, nobody likes him. So, hey, good run. Sure, you got a lot of money out of this situation. You can go write a book, and I'm sure we're all going to talk about it. But your day is over, man. Peace out.
And again, Angel Hernandez, the polarizing veteran umpire who has drawn the wrath of exasperation from players, managers, and fans alike over 3 decades, is retiring from Major League Baseball. And again, this is the article from USA Today that we just have pulled up in front of us. But this is a quote from Angel Hernandez, his comment regarding his retirement. Starting with my first Major League game in 1991, I've had the very good experience of living out my childhood dream of umpiring in the major leagues. I treasured the camaraderie of my colleagues and the friendships I have made along the way. But just like that, as we sit here in late May, not even June, not even the halfway point, not even the All-Star break, not October, the second the season's done, he says, I have decided that I want to spend more time with my family. And I respect family people. I love my family too. But no one just decides out of nowhere. Now, to be fair, if there is a health complication or something serious, then I will recant my, the satire in my voice a little bit, if you will. But no one just decides at the end of May, not even at the halfway point of the season that you've been calling games for over 30 years, that you just now want to spend time with your family. If there's a health complication with him or someone in his family, I will recant this smart ass comment and I will be remorseful regarding that. But until I hear that, this just screams something else. I'm not really sure what it is, but it's always something, and I don't like that. The official's name should never be the story constantly, and with him, it's always the story.
Yeah, man, and this is – let me ask you and the listeners, is this a black eye for baseball, him retiring in the middle of the season?
No, I think every time he's out there and every time it's like, you give the lineups, the starting pitchers, all this stuff, and then, look who's umpiring tonight. That to me, that was more of a concern. Okay. Especially when it wasn't just like fans disagreed with his calls, because fans will always disagree with the calls, but when the players constant aggression rate against him being up the way it is, I don't think it's a black eye against baseball with him, unless something comes out that there's unless he had a vendetta against certain people and it could be proven, kind of like the Foster thing in the NBA. Like, that would be a bad look, especially after the Donahue or whatever that was many moons ago. A little bit different, but same thing, kind of. So yeah, we'll see what comes out of this. That's fair. I just don't know how to take this when a referee or umpire or whatever decides to retire in the middle of the season, because we talk so much about, like, all right, locally we talk a ton of Reds, a little bit of Guardians, but like the national stories are the scandals, from steroids, from everything that's going on with Otani's people and stuff like that. It seems like that's when baseball gets its
just do and becomes front page news. Like this became front page news yesterday and everything like that. And I started thinking to myself, like, is this really a big deal? Like he's just a ump. Like, yeah, he's not liked by a lot of guys, but he's just a ump. Is this really that big of a deal? So I started thinking, what if, what's dude that used to wear the super tight t-shirts in the NFL?
Hockley. Yeah.
Like if he did retire, like would that be like a big deal? So I just don't know how to take this, if this is like the big deal that we're all making it.
And so Steve Stetler, he says he's not big enough as far as that's concerned. And that came in before you thrown out that question. Elaborate, Steve, in as far as context goes, when it comes to that. Again, talking about Angel Hernandez after, since 1991 has been a Major League Baseball official. Just randomly out of nowhere, it was announced yesterday that he is no longer that he's retiring. He will no longer be a Major League Baseball official. Of course, everyone loves to blame the umps. Everyone loves to hate on officials and blame officiating. So of course he's not going to be a big fan favorite. I don't know of any official who is a fan favorite, but that's the thing. If you're doing your job correctly, no one should know your name. Your name should not be a dreaded name every time it pops up on that, as far as that's concerned. He said he's not big enough to be a black eye for baseball.
Fair enough.
So as far as that goes, the ocean coverage, by the way, Steve Statler also says we'll be swimming in that big ocean on Friday. He says, so Roger says, yes, he loves the ocean coverage. Roger's coming in off YouTube because I love the ocean coverage. And he says space equals deep ocean. You see what you've done, Joe Rogan?
I'm telling you, bro.
What you've done?
I'm telling you. and the thing about Mr. Connor, Mr. Billionaire from right here in Dayton, Ohio, like if he's going to be spending $20 million on this state-of-the-art, submarine situation to go down there, imagine all the great things you could do for me with that $20 million. I'm not even asking for 20. Just give me $100K. $100K. You want to throw money away on going down to the bottom of the ocean? Hey, man, read a book. Watch a documentary on it, man. Go watch Titanic again. That'll give you everything that you need. Just give me $100K. I guarantee you I will make it last.
Overlapping stories here, but of course, Ohio billionaire Dayton's own Larry Connor will take a $20 million sub-vessel down to the Titanic wreck site to prove industry is safer after OceanGate incident. Now, here's why I also don't trust this. All right. Now, it says he will be joined by the CEO of Triton Submarines, Patrick Langley. So you mean to tell me that the CEO of the company is going down? Yeah, I think they're going to pay a little bit more extra attention when they're in the little vessel.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, people, RIP, obviously, to the people that lost their lives, especially the son that was terrified to go down there, but wanted to, make his father happy. They went to the bottom of the ocean in basically a Honda Civic. That's what that thing was. It was a Honda Civic, and not like the new Honda Civic. It was like a 98 Honda Civic. They decided, like, yeah, let's go down to the bottom of the ocean with a PlayStation 5 controller. Not saying they should have died, but hey, man, what do you expect? What do you expect, man?
There's no way. No way. If you had gun to your head, you had to go to space or you had to go to, and again, you think it's the same. I get that. But if you see what Elon, he gets bored with that FU money of his. He gets bored. He just jumps up to space every once in a while. I'm just kind of curious.
That's a good question.
If you had to, a little would you rather here, if you had to do one, you get in the sub vessel to go down to the bottom of the ocean, or you hanging out with old Elon Musk on a little rocket ship, going to be shot up to the moon?
I take a rocket ship.
Should we go to the moon?
I'll take a rocket ship. I'll take the rocket ship because if anything goes wrong, it's going to be over just like that. It's going to be a nice, quick explosion.
So you're for the explosion.
Yeah. Not the drowning and crushing thing and all that type of stuff. Nah, man. Hey, and plus I've been in the water before. I've never been outer space. So if I'm gonna go out, I'll go out someplace I've never been before.
I'd be terrified of both.
Oh, absolutely. But
I'd be terrified.
Set a gun in my head. I gotta choose, so you gotta choose.
Pull the trigger on me, man. I'm just saying, like, all I'm saying is that I don't even like getting on rides that cousin texted me over the weekend, say, hey, you guys want to go to Cedar Point? I'm like, nah, I'm good.
What?
I'm good. Oh yeah. I was always that loser kid that would always get mad if I wasn't allowed to go to Cedar Point with my friends when I was a kid, just to get there and just stand there.
You don't.
Hey, I'll hold your phone. Hey, you guys, you want me to hold your phone? Hey,
you don't ride rides, bro?
No, I'm terrified.
None.
So I learned it's not the dropping, like that feeling. It's the going up. The going up scares the living bleep out of me. Like when I've gotten that, We went to Universal a few years ago. We got on that Harry Potter ride. And I'm like, it's Harry Potter. How dangerous can Harry Potter be?
Yeah, man.
Until we get up, and then we're going like straight up, and then I realize
wizard, Harry.
It just stops. So then you have to like drop all the way back. And I'm just, all these little kids around, and I'm yelling the F word the whole way we're going up this dang thing.
They say it too.
Yep. So, nonetheless, nope, that's a no for me.
So when you did go to Cedar Point, like you rode nothing?
Rode nothing.
Just
and like cool little arcade, go hang out in the arcade. Yeah, real loser, dude.
Cedar Point tickets, at least last time I went, were like $50.
I mean, I've worked in radio my whole life, dude. Jordan Earhart on YouTube. What up, Jordan? He says the Beast is still the GOAT. So you're a roller coaster guy.
So I ride roller coasters, but I do not ride wooden roller coasters.
Click.
Too shaky for me, man. Last time I rode the Beast, I think I got whiplash.
So that's the wooden one, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay. I think I have been on that one, though, to be fair. I mean, I have been on roller coasters. I'm just telling you, I'm just miserable the whole time.
Good time at night, man. Roller coasters are super fun at night.
Yeah. I went to Universal, and I was a wuss. I just got on all the Jordan Austin says Kings Island, too, by the way. Yeah. The what are those, the virtual rides over there at the old Universal, That was me. On the teacups and stuff. I'm joking, but
the goggles and like, yeah, you're really on the roller coaster.
No, Jimmy Fallon. You go on the Jimmy Fallon roller coaster.
So I take it you wouldn't do any zip lining.
Ron says it's not that I'm afraid of roller coasters. I'm not tall enough to get on them. So. Good job, Ron. On cue. What'd you say though?
No zip lining for you, huh?
Maybe. No. Because again, going up would be the problem.
So
going down is your only option.
Yeah. So I am going to Puerto Rico for a vacation here coming up very, very soon. And they have the world's longest zip line out there. Actually, speaking of Jimmy Fallon, he did it. So you can YouTube it and watch it for yourself on there. So I'm trying to talk the group of people that I'm going with into doing this. I want to do this. I'll be terrified. I'm scared to do a lot of things, but I ultimately end up doing them. Like when I went jet skiing before, terrified out of my mind, but I did it. I'm like one of those people, man. Like if I'm scared to do it, I'm still going to do it just to say like, hey, man, I did it. And it's not like, oh, man, I'm conquering the fear. I'm still scared, but I still want to do it.
I love my wife to pieces for a lot of reasons. One of the biggest reasons I love her more than anything else is that we both share the same fears. So there was never that like you grow up and there's this girl you like and you're going to go to Cedar Point and I can't. I'm sick. I'm glad my parents said I can't go. Making up excuses because I don't want to go wuss out, But when I met my wife and she said she's terrified of roller coasters too, dropped down to that knee, dude. Marry me now.
You found the one.
Found the one. There you go. The one.
The one.
Haven't heard that damn commercial in a while. Kenner and Cab, 1410 ESPN Radio. We'll be right back.
you've liked and followed the Justin Kinner Show on Facebook. Enter contests, weigh in on the latest sports debates. Plus, you can watch Kinner and Kev weekdays at 3 p.m. Yeah, as if listening to them isn't bad enough. Now you can see them. Reds, Bengals, Browns, Buckeyes, and more. Follow the Justin Kinner Show on Facebook. Don't miss Kinner and Kev. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. Buckeye fans, don't miss Dayton's own Keith Byers every Wednesday at noon on The Keith Byers Show. Presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken.
And we are back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. Happy Tuesday. Hope everyone had a great Memorial Day weekend, of course. Back and rolling, trying to get the ball rolling on the week a little bit as far as that goes. Kev, let's see. I saw today 100 days away from kickoff to the NFL season.
Yes, sir.
Ohio State kicks off their 2024 season on Saturday, August 31st against Akron. Now, according to 11 Warriors, DraftKings, they put out the spread for that game. Just sit here in late May before we even turn the chapter over to June. Ohio State, Akron, what do you think that line is going to be?
27.
27-point favorite over Akron?
Yeah.
I think it's what it should be. But they are listed as a 50.5-point favorite over Akron in the season.
You said 15?
50. 50.
Oh, 50.
50.5. I think the last 2 years have kind of beat us down a little bit to where we can no longer just assume that Ohio State is going to go bludgeon teams. Will they put 50 up? I mean, man, the offense has not been as sharp the last couple of years as what we would have liked it to be. So can they put 50 points up? Can they beat Akron? Beating Akron, yes. Blowing out Akron, no doubt. It's kind of a very silly question, but I just thought the 50.5-point line was kind of wild to me. Oh yeah.
So I think a lot of fans of the Buckeyes are looking back at what Chip Kelly's Oregon teams did when they played, these type of opponents, and they really bludgeoned them. And it wasn't really with the passing game. I mean, you think back to those Michael James teams, Kenyon Burner, those type of guys out there. They really did it with the running game. And I was having this conversation with my brother about the whole 1-2 punch with Junkins and Henderson with the Buckeyes. And he was like, "Man, is it gonna work? How are they gonna handle touches?" And I was just like, I remember it worked with Chip Kelly before. Chip Kelly does this, and this is what he does. And I wouldn't mind them being not more run reliant, but more of a physical run team and having a 1-2 punch. I remember when was it Dobbins and Weber?
Weber, yeah.
That was the last really true 1-2 punch at running back Ohio State had before this upcoming season. So if the Buckeyes can get back to that, and a lot of those runs with Kenyon Burner and Michael James, those were 80-yard runs. When's the last time we seen a Ohio State running back go 80? Was it?
And they've had a good room.
Yeah. Was it Trayvon's freshman year, versus Indiana and stuff like that?
Who's the transfer they had that was here for 1 year?
From Oklahoma.
Why am I drawing a blank on his name?
He broke KB's record in the Big Ten championship game. Yes.
So
Trey Sermon. Yeah.
So you had a Sermon Hendrickson room that turned into mainly Sermon because Hendrickson got hurt for a bit. But we thought that was the next big 1-2 running back room for Ohio State, and since the JK, in the Weber room that you talked about, because really it was once Zeke left, it took JK and Weber to it took the production from both of them to replicate what you saw from one. But the Ohio State hasn't had a dominant running back since Zeke.
Yeah,
does that say? I mean, JK. That's maybe it's a little disrespectful to JK.
JK almost had 2,000 the year they lost to Clemson,
and he's pretty damn good too in the NFL if he could just stay healthy. I don't know what he has left now after being beat up a little bit like that, But Jordan, Earhart, by the way, on YouTube, he says Chip will get them rolling. Talking about Chip Kelly. Now, the reason that was significant about the spread is that's only the third time since 2013 that the Buckeyes have been a 50-point favorite.
I don't think they cover that 50.
I don't think they cover that 50.
That's a lot of points.
I need to see Will Howard, man. I know Will Howard was good, but I need to see Will Howard. And can there be too many cooks in the kitchen? You have too many dominant running backs, so you have to try to appease both of them. You also have really good wide receivers. Like, this ain't going to be easy, and no one feels sorry for him. I know I don't.
Right.
But, yeah, Chip Kelly, a lot of money paid to come in, big name coming in. I know Drew Garrison, who just messed it. What up, Drew? He's on YouTube. I know a Michigan running back who had 2 80-yarders on Ohio State. Drew, go. You know what, Drew? I misread that,
You bring up the Will Howard situation. Him transferring from Kansas State to Ohio State. Nobody, like you said, nobody cares or nobody wants to hear this, but like, it's going to be a transition for him as well. Like, his time at Kansas State, like it was him. Like, hey man, we're going to run the QB draw with you. We're going to run the bootleg with you. You're going to throw it. Like, it was everything. In this Ohio State offense, he's going to be asked to be the point guard as opposed to the lead guard. You know what I mean? His job is to get it out to the playmakers and control the flow and everything like that. That wasn't what he's asked to do, his first 3 years at Kansas State. His years at Kansas State, for lack of a better word, he was asked to be, James Harden during his Houston Rockets days. Hey, man, you do everything. It's all about you. But now we want you to be Chris Paul, like in his Clippers days. Hey, man, distribute it. Make sure everybody's happy. So, like, it's going to be adjustment for him as well.
It's a Kenner and Kev show here on 1410 ESPN Radio. We are Dayton's radio home. Cincinnati Reds baseball, of course, as well as Ohio State football, but it's baseball season. And coming up immediately following the Kenner and Kev show, we have Reds baseball again. As we talked about, Andrew Abbott going to be on the mound. 6:10 coverage begins coming up next, as well as the 6:40 first pitch. Reds Cardinals. The Reds sweeping the Dodgers. They take game 1 against the Cards. They've won 4 straight. Can they make it 5 in a row tonight? We'll find out right here on Dayton's radio, home of the Reds, 1410 ESPN Radio.
Recipe chicken. you've liked and followed the Justin Kinner Show on Facebook. Enter contests, weigh in on the latest sports debates. Plus, you can watch Kinner and Kev weekdays at 3 p.m. Yeah, as if listening to them isn't bad enough. Now you can see them. Reds, Bengals, Browns, Buckeyes, and more. Follow the Justin Kinner Show on Facebook. Don't miss Kinner and Kev, weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, back with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Here on a Tuesday. Hope everyone's having a great day coming out of the 3-day extended weekend, of course. And we're back at it. We haven't really covered a whole hell of a lot. Submarines, roller coasters, rocket ships, Joe Rogan. That
Sneakers.
That summarized the first hour of the show. Let's see if we can regather ourselves. No, I don't. It's May. It's May. 50.5 favorite of the Buckeyes over Akron. It's May. Okay. But you threw out the question during the break regarding NFL quarterbacks.
Yeah, there's a lot of veteran quarterbacks that have gotten new teams in the off season. I was going to see if you could remember who these guys went to, because OTAs this was this weekend. So guys are back out there on the football field. They're not playing football. They're more playing 7-on-7 and playing catch, but they are NFL players and they have found new homes.
And it's very important to be there.
Yeah.
If you're not there, you're a bum. You don't like your team. A lot of Bengals didn't show up today, Kev. A lot of Bengals don't love their team, by the way.
And did you see the report that potentially OTAs could be going away?
I think it's smart. These dudes are all working out on their own anyways. There was sarcasm in that, by the way, a little bit ago. Like, it just creates more of this BS. It creates more of who's there, who's not, and then you have to feel guilty if you show up more. I think the people who show up are made to feel more guilty than the people who don't.
Right.
Like Jamar Chase, T. Higgins don't show up today, but Mr. Nerd, Joe Burrow shows up. Now you're making us look bad, right? Like it's not necessary. The idea that OTAs, it's the only time that these guys are working out together, is insane and ridiculous. So, but
another thing about that is the amount of guys that do show up, and also the guys that don't show up. 9 times out of 10, they don't make the city that they play in their home for the entire year. So, Jamar Chase, he still lives in Louisiana, like in the off season, like that's his quote unquote permanent resident. So, I mean, like, hey man, like, come up to Cincinnati or just stay here. I'll just
beautiful this time of year. But we're right now, again, so much player movement, obviously throughout the free agency, of course, but in the quarterback world, of course.
Yeah.
So I'm having to guess where these QBs are now.
Yes. And matter of fact, there's 10 of them. So 1 point for the correct team that they're on right now. And I'll give you an additional point if you can name the team that they came from.
All right. This is where we always prove Kinner doesn't know sports. So Kinner doesn't know sports, segment number one.
Number one, Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz. Jesus, where was Carson Wentz before? So Carson Wentz right now, hold up. I know this one. Damn, he was with the Rams.
Correct.
He was with the Rams. And where he ended up, is he in Buffalo?
No, he is not.
Where is he right now?
Kansas City Chiefs.
That makes sense. I like that. I like that move. Patrick Mahomes don't miss games, so if he does, he
only misses playoff games.
He misses quarter or something in a playoff
halves of games.
Unreal.
Your guy, porn star Jimmy Garoppolo. Where's he playing right now?
I have no damn idea where Jimmy Garoppolo is playing right now, to be honest with you. I feel I'm having flashbacks to high school and college right now. Come in, you sit down, you're thinking, we're going to take some notes today. Oh, no. Pop quiz.
Okay, fair enough.
Hold up. So Jimmy G last year was with the Raiders.
Correct.
And
50%.
And Jimmy G right now.
So the bonuses.
He didn't go to Buffalo, did he?
He did not.
I'm feeding everyone. Buffalo going to have a hell of a quarterback room when it's all said and done. Where's old Jimmy Pornstar G?
Rams.
Oh, that makes sense.
Rams.
He likes that West Coast. He likes,
Yeah, this one I know you're going to get right. Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold?
Yes.
Where the hell is Sam Darnold? Of course, he's in Minnesota.
Correct.
Where was he last year, though? Buffalo last year. No, he went to Minnesota this year because I was like, you don't get rid of Kirk Cousins to get Sam Darnold. That's how we knew they were going to go rookie quarterback in the draft or whatever. But where was he last year?
49ers.
Oh, yeah. Duh, because it was him and 85 other quarterbacks fighting for a job. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, Gardner Minshew.
Gardner Minshew is with the Raiders.
Correct. Look at you.
And Gardner Minshew was with the Jaguars last year. Buffalo last year. I'm just done. I'm done.
The Colts.
The Colts. It was blue. I knew it was a blue team. Semi-blue for the Jags.
Mr. Jameis Winston.
Mr. Jameis Winston. Right now, he's winning it up right now in Cleveland.
Correct.
But he was with the Saints last year.
Correct. He got a clean sweep of that one. Good job.
Not the Bills. Not the Bills.
Correct. All right. I know you're not going to get this one. Wearing a brand new number, by the way, rocking the number 0, former Heisman Trophy winner, Marcus Mariota.
Marcus Mariota was with... Wait, where's Marcus? Hold up. Time out. I hate this. I hate being put on the spot. So, Marcus Mariota. No effing idea. All right. Where was Marcus Mariota last year?
Philly.
Oh, yeah. Where is he this year? Buffalo.
Commanders.
Oh, that sucks for him.
Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one right here. I know you're not going to get this.
Are you chucking up my points?
You're at 6 points. You have 6 points.
Every point matters, dude.
Yeah.
Every point matters.
Josh Dobbs.
Dobbs.
So
he went to Minnesota last year.
Correct. I'll give you that. He played for Minnesota and he played for another team, but you did guess Minnesota, so that is a point for you. That is 7. If you'd have guessed the Cardinals, that would have been an additional point, but you only guessed 1. So where is he at right now?
Dobbs. No idea.
San Francisco 49ers.
How many quarterbacks you let on the damn roster?
It's OTAs, man.
Yeah.
OTAs, bro.
Yeah.
Ooh, you're definitely not going to get this one. One of my favorite college quarterbacks of all time, Tyrod Taylor.
Oh, I definitely will not. No, I know at one point he was in Buffalo. All right.
Before
he had that lung punctured.
Yeah, that before Josh Allen showed up, he was the last quarterback to get them to the playoffs.
I mean, that was a brutal offense. I mean, that was all about that defense. But yeah, he did get him there, and then Tyrod Taylor, he did his thing. But where is he now?
He is with the New York Jets.
The Jets or the Giants?
Jets.
But was he with the Giants last year?
He was with the Giants last year.
Okay.
No point for you.
Because I watched one of them horrible ass Thursday night football games with him leading the way. Woofa.
All right, I know you're gonna get this one. I know you got Zach Wilson.
What the hell did Zach Wilson have? So he was with the Jets last year. Did they end up trading him?
They did.
And they traded him to the San Francisco 49ers. I have no damn idea. The Buffalo Bills.
I'm going to start giving you hints. No, they traded him to the Denver Broncos.
Oh, that stinks.
All right, last one. You have 8 points, by the way. So that's not, you did better than I thought you were going to do. Shouts out to the bonuses. Drew Lock.
Why am I so bad at this?
I don't know. It's like you're a sports host.
I mean, I'm not looking it up, but I gotta at least look at I have to have all the NFL teams up in front of me. So Drew Lock is
you're gonna get this one wrong.
In Carolina.
That is definitely not it.
Drew Lock is in Denver.
No.
He
used to play for Denver.
Drew Lock is where?
Drew Lock is with the Giants. Yes, he was with the Giants.
They have Daniel Jones. They have
Drew Lock. Who did he play for last year?
Denver.
No.
The year before was Denver.
Correct.
The Raiders. Damn it. We're done here. We're going to have Seahawks. Yeah, of course. The Seahawks. Yes. We don't care about backups and scrubs. We talk about the starters, Kev. That was brutal. That was absolutely insanely brutal.
Is 8 for 20 actually bad?
You said 10. We did 10.
But I gave you bonuses. If you didn't get the bonuses, you would have been down in the 3s.
I'm going to call you Alpha Media with all these bonuses you'd be giving out. Bonus here, bonus there. Jordan Earhart, he says if Carson Wentz stays on the Chiefs the rest of his career, he's going to somehow end up a multiple Super Bowl champion when it's all said and done.
I mean, shouts out to Chad Henne.
I mean, isn't he technically a Super Bowl champion?
Yeah, he's that? Yeah. He got one with Philly. And shoot, people try to negate that. But I mean, he was the starter going into that season until he got hurt. And I mean, shoot, Chad Henne, he's got 2 Super Bowl rings and he earned it because, like you talked about, with, Mahomes getting hurt in playoff games, he came in and filled in versus your Browns, and then he came in and filled in another game during the other playoff run. So Chad Henne earned his 2 Super Bowl rings. Shout out to Chad Henne.
Browns defense couldn't get Chad Henne off the field for 8 minutes. Chiefs couldn't stop Baker Mayfield that game. He was throwing all over the damn place on him. Then it took that dumb Rashard Higgins. I'm still scarred by this. Rashard Higgins fumble out the end zone.
And yes, and Sean, I know you're listening. Also, Chad Henne is also better than the previous Michigan quarterback.
Mr. JJ.
Yeah. Chad Henne is 10 times better than JJ McCarthy. 10 times better.
So that segment
in college
never happens again.
Oh, we got to replay that on Friday.
Oh my gosh, that was absolutely brutal. That was not good. Again, flashbacks to how I failed high school and college all the damn time. I never failed high school. I mean, quiz or two, a pop quiz here or there. This is why I needed to be like a Michigan guy and cheat. I should have had the answers written on a sheet of paper off to the side. We'll talk about OTA. So the Cincinnati Bengals coming up around the corner. The wide receiver market really starting to not shape up, but another wide receiver. So we know Jamar Chase is sitting back, keeping an eye on the Justin Jefferson situation. Another big name wide receiver is also sitting back, keeping an eye on the Justin Jefferson situation as far as that's concerned. So we'll talk about that when we come back. We'll also have ESPN's Dan Murphy. We're going to talk about the NCAA settlement and what that means for, college athletics moving forward. How does that impact some of the mid-major conferences from a college basketball standpoint, since we, of course, talk a lot of UD and Wright State and others. So we got a lot more to dive into. Kenner and Cab, 1410 ESPN Radio.
Fans, don't miss Dayton's own Keith Byers every Wednesday at noon on The Keith Byers Show, presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken. you've liked and followed the Justin Kinner Show on Facebook. Enter contests, weigh in on the latest sports debates. Plus, you can watch Kinner and Kev weekdays at 3 p.m. Yeah, as if listening to them isn't bad enough. Now you can see them. Reds, Bengals, Browns, Buckeyes, and more. Follow the Justin Kinner Show on Facebook. Don't miss Kinner and Kev. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. Buckeye fans, don't miss Dayton's own Keith Byers every Wednesday at noon on The Keith Byers Show. Presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken.
We'll be joined by ESPN's Dan Murphy coming up here in just a few moments. Shaw's live in the chat.
Oh, boy.
He said, in response to your comment about Chad Henne, I'll make sure everyone can read this. He says, Chad Henne was not better than JJ in college. He played for 4 years, and their stats are very close. JJ won a natty and 3 Big Ten titles. Chad did none of that. JJ is better. Using the, that's JJ did a lot of things behind a very, very good defense and a very, very good run game and a cheating scandal. JJ did a lot. JJ did a lot. Just saying.
So are we talking about team achievements or individual achievements? Because those are two totally different things. Yeah. Because what the Michigan team accomplished should be commended. He was a major part of that situation, him being J.J. McCarthy. For my money, I don't think McCarthy has ever had a good of a game as Chad Henne did versus Ohio State in that 1v2 game back in 2006. Threw for like 250, another two tutties. It literally took, performance from the Heisman Trophy winner, Troy Smith, with his arm and his legs to beat them. They put up 40 at the shoe that night. So, I just think that Chad Henne was a better college quarterback. I just don't think that, this J.J. McCarthy is, what everybody and their mom thinks he is. And I stand firm on, hey, man, if you plug in Chad Henne, they do the exact same thing, if not more, with this current roster. If you plug in Denard Robinson, they do the exact same thing.
Yeah, and look, and like never once, and this is why the big debate about J.J. McCarthy was leading into the draft was that, you had the propaganda that was his head coach, just, he's, the best, quarterback, and maybe he comes out with the Vikings and he slings it all over and he's going to have the weapons to shut a lot of people up.
Absolutely.
But he'll have no excuse. We've seen rookie quarterbacks come into the league and dominate right away while looking like rookies, but we know right off the bat how special they are. Right. We knew it with Joe Burrow. You see it with these guys coming into the league, and they have way less to work with than what he's going to have to do coming in. But when you talked about Michigan, we didn't talk about J.J. McCarthy until the draft because no one ever thought about J.J. McCarthy during the run that Michigan was on, because it was all about the cheating scandal. It was all about the dominant defense and the NFL players that were all over that defense. And it was all about that big, meaty offensive line. Mm-hmm. And it was all about that dominant run game. Even the dominant wins against Ohio State. Someone, I think it was Drew a little bit ago, poked fun at that, talked about the multiple running backs who had those 80-yard runs. That was the run game dominating Ohio State. That wasn't the pass game by any means as far as that's concerned. So, it is what it is, but we're Ohio State fans. We know what good quarterbacks look like. I think that's really what it comes down to is, you sit this one out.
I just don't understand how people can be upset about this. I'm giving him all the props in the world. He was the quarterback of the national championship team. He did his part. Do I think I believe Shaw is absolutely right about the was the previous quarterback, McNamara. I don't think they get to this level of winning with McNamara there. I think that J.J. McCarthy is a big step up from him. I just think that what I saw out of Chad Henne, his 4 years at Michigan, I think he was better than J.J.
And how many weeks did it take for them to realize that J.J. was the guy? I mean, it took a minute.
Oh, yeah. Henne started as a true freshman.
Yeah.
Gave him the keys to the car.
You have 2 quarterbacks, you have none, right? Like, I mean, it took a minute. I keep thinking that, pick 6 right off the bat, or the interception he threw right off the bat. I mean, great quarterback. And maybe he will be. Who knows? Good seats. Exactly. Kenner and Cab, 1410 ESPN Radio. We're going to be joined by ESPN's Dan Murphy coming up for a little bit.
Maybe we ask Dan Murphy who's a better quarterback.
Let's ask him. With this NCAA settlement, just before we get to Dan Murphy, your overall just quick synopsis of this, like your takeaway regarding this, because there's so many moving parts to this that it's how it impacts an Ohio State, how it impacts a Big Ten conference, the SEC, even the smaller conferences. Like, what does this mean for them? How do they sit at the table with everyone else?
Right.
Like, I'm fascinated by everything going on right now in the NCAA.
It's a lot. It's so much to unpack. And I think the biggest problem with it is there's so much things to unpack. We automatically go to thinking like, okay, so what does all this mean? And nobody can decipher what it means because our mind automatically goes to, well, how is this going to work? Who's going to get paid what? Wait, everybody's getting paid differently? How's it? So like, there's more questions than answers right now. And my biggest takeaway is this is the NCAA's fault. All these questions and people questioning everything. This is chickens coming home to roost. If you would have taken care of the players way back in the day and made them employees, basically what they're initially going to be doing now, this would have never come home. This would have never been the situation. Maybe the transfer portal wouldn't be like this. Maybe the NIL collectives wouldn't be like this if you would have just paid them the first time. And it's just like how we talk about with the NFL quarterbacks, pay them now or you're going to be paying more later. And now the NCAA and the schools are now having to pay the players more now than if they were going to do it back in the day.
I do see that Dan Murphy lives in Michigan, by the way. So maybe.
Hey,
Why
not? Why not? It's a legit question.
ESPN reporter again, Dan Murphy. He joins us next. We'll talk about this NCAA settlement, what it means for the Big Ten, Ohio State, and even the from a basketball perspective, mid-major conferences. Obviously Dayton playing in the A-10. How does this impact them? What about a small conference like the Horizon League? How does it impact them in Wright State? Like, what does this mean? Because I've seen multiple, you look at different commissioners, others who've come out and basically spoke out against some of this stuff. So we'll see. Dan Murphy next.
Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken has the best fast food.
Chicken. liked and followed The Justin Kinner Show on Facebook. Enter contests, weigh in on the latest sports debates. Plus, you can watch Kinner and Kev weekdays at 3 p.m. Yeah, as if listening to them isn't bad enough. Now you can see them. Reds, Bengals, Browns, Buckeyes, and more. Follow The Justin Kinner Show on Facebook. Don't miss Kinner and Kev. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. Buckeye fans, don't miss Dayton's own Keith Byers every Wednesday at noon on The Keith Byers Show. Presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken. Don't miss Dayton's top-rated local sports talk show, Kinner and Kev. Hang out with the guys weekdays at 3 p.m. as they talk Buckeyes, Bengals, Browns, Reds, and yes, your Wright State Raiders. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, back with you here on 1410 ESPN Radio. So as the week started to wrap up last week, of course, the news started coming down as Kev and I not on the air throughout late last week, of course, to dive into this. The NCAA Power Five all agreed to a deal that will let schools pay their players. Now, again, with the landscape of college athletics changing constantly, it is a tough roller. We were talking about roller coasters earlier. It's a tough roller coaster to kind of keep up with. But a good friend of the show, we have ESPN's Dan Murphy hanging out with us. Dan, we appreciate your time. This is something I know you've been covering and working on for a while. We appreciate you hanging out with us today.
Hey guys, yeah, always happy to join you and chat for a little bit. I can't promise that I'm going to make anything more clear or less confusing than it already is, because I'll tell you what, even the athletic directors I'm talking to this week are a little bit turned around about what all of this means, but we'll do our best.
Now, look, we know we don't know what we're talking about. So if you come on and don't know what you're talking about, listeners could direct their anger towards you. So it works out pretty well. So, no, we appreciate your time as we talked about. Look, so basically, with all of this, again, there's so many different moving parts when it comes to what kind of came down late last week. The article that you and yourself, Pete Thamel, had worked on, the NCAA and its Power 5 conferences have agreed to allow schools to directly pay their players for the first time in the 100-plus year history of college sports. That's a very simple way just to kind of throw it out there and set you up. But what exactly went down last week that has changed the landscape even more for college athletics now due to this news?
So last week, the NCAA and the power conferences agreed to settle a series of antitrust lawsuits, which were the kind of biggest and most pressing looming threat for billions of dollars that the NCAA might owe if they lose those cases. So they settled those lawsuits, and to do so, they had to do two things. They had to agree to pay recent athletes over the past 8 years a certain amount of money for money that the athletes say they lost because the NIL rules were too restrictive. And they also had to agree to allow schools to, moving forward, start paying players a certain percentage of the revenue that they bring in. And that number, that'll start next year, in the fall of 2025. And that number is roughly, there's sort of a ceiling on how much schools can spend, and that's around $20 million per school split among their athletes.
So is that similar to basically a salary cap?
In concept, yeah. It's not exactly the same, but yes, it's essentially how that's going to function. There's a lot of questions over whether schools will have a way to kind of work around that, or whether some NIL collectives will work around that. All that sort of left to be remained, but I think that's the simplest way to think about it right now. Yeah.
So, and ESPN's Dan Murphy with us. Dan, so when the settlement came down last week, obviously there has to be a winner and a loser. Was the NCAA the loser in this, or is the fact that schools now are put in a position where they have to pay athletes the losers in this? What's exactly who comes out winning in this situation, or is there a winner?
So the lawsuit was really players versus schools in the NCAA together, and certainly I think players to a certain degree win. They'll have a chance to pocket extra money directly from their school for their first time ever. This is another pretty significant step forward in a trend we've seen over the past 10 years or so of what's left of amateurism being chipped away. And this doesn't solve every issue for the NCAA. There are still some questions out there whether or not players might be considered employees of their schools moving forward, or whether the top richest schools might end up splitting away just because their business looks so much different from everybody else. But this was a pretty significant step forward, and I think at the end of the day, it's probably a win for the players.
So for people like myself that are old enough to remember, basically when this really started hitting the masses, like the Ed O'Bannon situation. I mean, I remember Ed O'Bannon and his brother Charles O'Bannon and Toby Bailey winning the national championship at UCLA, like I want to say like in '95. And then like that's like kind of like really what started this whole wave of like, hey man, we want to get compensated for, our name, image, and likeness. And it's basically been until now, it's finally coming home to roost. So what are the players that before this 8-year gap, what do they have to say about this? Because like this is all these younger players are reaping the benefits of, the guys of the 80s and 90s, but the guys from the 80s and 90s aren't going to be seeing any of these dollars.
Yeah, no doubt. It's been a long fight, and it's been sort of a slow progress, right? Where you mentioned Ed O'Bannon, he filed a lawsuit, in the early 2000s after having won the championship. I think you're right, in '95. They've slowly chipped away and gotten more and more for athletes, and they got a little bit of back pay during those lawsuits. But you're right. This is, there are lots of guys that played in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s that aren't going to see a penny of any of this money. And unfortunately, that's just the way the law works for them. There's a statute of limitations on how far back you can go with these lawsuits. And so the big lawsuit in question here was first filed in 2020. So if you played a sport before 2016, unfortunately, it's a little bit of an arbitrary cutoff, but you're out of luck on making some of that money that some of your younger peers might be able to pull in here moving forward.
So I was reading an article, and am I correct to assume that not every player is going to get paid the exact same amount? I think they're coming up with a formula about like, hey, what did you bring to the school during your playing time, the amount of snaps that you had, the level star recruit that you were when you came into school. Is that correct?
Yeah. So there's two piles of money here, right? There's $2.8 billion, which is a big old pile of money that will go for, past damages. And so that'll go to players from 2016 through current day. And that money will be split up based on, everyone will be eligible to get some of that money if you played a Division I sport during that time. But certainly players like, superstar kind of players who had more market value will have a chance to make a claim for more money. And there are some economists who are probably way smarter than I am, trying to figure out those numbers and deciding who gets what. And then moving forward, there's a different pot of money where every school will be able to spend up to $20 million a year. They won't have to, but they will be able to. And in that case, each school will get to decide who they want to spend that money on and how they want to divvy it up.
Am I crazy to assume the guy that's going to get the biggest check is Johnny Manziel?
He's definitely going to be up there. He's definitely. I'm trying to think. Was Manziel 2016? What year did Manziel finish? But he'd definitely be very high on that list.
Wow, you're right. So like a guy like Tim Tebow, he's not even eligible.
Yeah, Tebow is a great name, but yeah, he'll never see a dime of this, despite how popular. Like the amount of money he could have pulled in if name, image, and likeness was around in the early 2000s would have been big, but he missed the cut.
You know? Wow.
So this is kind of like, so this, now you look at all the things that these athletics departments have had to try to adapt to over recent years, having to figure out a way to, you have to appease the NIL, collectives and everything like that, but you don't want to appease it to the point to where you're losing money from your athletics department. You're technically not supposed to be working hand in hand with that anyways, but the relationships are key. And then you're having to deal with the portal, and now you add this to the mix as well. Obviously, when we talk about these, with these types of situations, we always just go to football and college basketball right off the bat, but there's so many sports that fall under the NCAA umbrella. I mean, schools, when you talk about all this money and everything like that, I mean, is there going to be a pushback at some point about, okay, we need to change how many sports you have to carry to be D1? I mean, do we really need to carry this many sports? Do we even need this particular sport? And then you're going to get to the Title IX conversation. Like, it's just going to be like a lot of stuff coming in. I feel like after this, am I wrong in saying that?
You're not. No, I think that's dead on. Is that there is still, the dust hasn't settled on this, right? Like, this was a big blow, but exactly what the repercussions are will probably take a year or so before we fully understand what they look like. Is there a chance that schools use this as an opportunity to cut their sports? I think that's a fair guess. I think people will try to do that. I don't think they have to use it that way, right? If schools want to say, no one's forcing them to spend a dime more than they're already spending in terms of the forward-looking money. So if they want to prioritize keeping the swimming team and the golf team, instead of paying their basketball players a little bit more, that option is open for them, where they could find other ways to bring in some money. But I would not be surprised to see some schools move toward trying to limit some of their teams moving forward. Yeah.
So we could potentially see student athletes, in the negotiation phase of, before they commit to a school, saying, hey, I want X amount of dollars from the athletics department, but I also am looking for this amount of money in the NIL deal, and I want this car, and I mean, like, there's gonna be so many layers to this that it's just gonna take a complicated situation and make it even more complicated. Luckily, I'm just a fan and media guy. Just sit back and talk about it and watch it, and don't have to deal with any of that. That's for sure.
So the schools and NCAA are hoping that part of this deal will actually make some of the NIL stuff a little bit easier to control, and that a lot of that will actually be brought in-house, and it'll be more of the schools sort of doling out whatever an athlete can get from the school. It's a little unclear exactly how much they're going to be able to do that, and whether this, the NIL market for athletes will still exist in some places or in some ways. But I think the schools hope, and one of the reasons why they signed this deal is because they think they'll be able to get some more control back over how they build their rosters and how players move around, now that money's coming directly from the school's bank account rather than from a booster trying to lure somebody over to their rival school.
ESPN's Dan Murphy hanging out with us here. It's the Kinner and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Dan, we talk a lot of college sports on this station. Obviously, a lot of Ohio State football, college football, but we also during the winter talk a lot of college basketball. And we carry Wright State basketball out of the Horizon League here in Dayton. You have the Dayton Flyers out of the A10. Obviously, with news that comes out like this, we talk a lot of the Power Fives and the high major programs and everything else. But what about the smaller conferences or the non-football schools and stuff like that? How does this impact them negatively in any way? How are you viewing it from that perspective, from some of these non-football conferences or these mid-major conferences, if you will?
Yeah, so the Ohio States of the world are going to max out that $20 million budget as soon as they're allowed to, because that's less than 10% of what they bring in on an annual basis. It's not quite the coins in the couch cushions, but it's not far off if you're Ohio State. For schools in the A10 and the Horizon League, I don't think that they will be paying anywhere near the $20 million cap if they even add any money at all to what they're already providing to their athletes. Their budgets are stretched pretty thin. There are a couple ways this could impact some of those smaller basketball type conferences. First of all, because the NCAA is paying out this big pot of money to former athletes, a lot of those conferences depend on money that the NCAA sends down the pipe to different schools every year based on how well they do in the basketball tournament and how well they do in some other metrics. And those distributions from the NCAA down to schools are going to get smaller because the NCAA has these legal bills to pay now.
Right.
I don't know how much that's going to immediately impact or how much of a difference that's going to make for these schools being able to have teams. But to me, the bigger, more interesting question is more probably 5 years down the road is as it gets really, as schools on the top end of college sports start spending more and more money and separating themselves further, it seems like a domino tips in the direction of splitting off those biggest schools and having them go do their own thing and treating them differently than everybody else in the NCAA. And of course, the big looming question, the ugly one that I don't know how it shakes out, is if those schools, if the Ohio States, if the Big Ten schools and the SEC schools split off from everybody else, what happens to the best sporting event in America, if not in the world, with March Madness? I think right now the goal seems to be to try to save that in any way they can. But I think we are slowly, as everything in college sports happens slowly, headed toward a future where those top conferences are probably going to do their own thing in some way, or be so much different from the Daytons and the Wright States that it's hard for them to compete on the same court. And hopefully there's some way to preserve the tournament. But I think long term, if I was a fan of Horizon League basketball or A10 basketball, that would be the thing that was, if there is a concern about this, that would be it.
So in Horizon A10 mid-major conferences, but like about the Big East from a basketball perspective. I mean, it sounds like everything you just said, technically, even though that's the Big East, a big conference, it's a high major conference.
Like
I mean,
five championships in the last 5 years.
Like they would be, this would impact them probably more than anyone else too, from that perspective, correct?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, the question there is, does UConn or Villanova have enough of a budget and have enough, high-level boosters that will donate money so that they can continue to pay their basketball team, $5 or $10 million of a payroll, essentially, because that's what Ohio State and Michigan and Alabama are going to be able to do. And I think, at a school like UConn, at a school like Villanova, whatever it may, I think they'll probably find the money to compete. And in some sense, it might be a little bit of a leg up, right? Because Villanova doesn't have to worry about. So you have this $20 million bucket of money that you can spread out among your athletes. And if you're at Ohio State and you're at Michigan, you're going to be given a lot of that money to the football teams. If you're at UConn or Villanova, you don't have to worry about paying the football players too much. You can load up all that money on your basketball team and potentially build a better roster than some of those teams if you have the bankroll to do it.
If you're Dayton, get to the Big East.
It could work out.
Yeah, if you're Dayton, get to the Big East. Like that's
there you go.
Immediately.
There you go.
Kind of transition into something else that's kind of like flown under the radar, at least in my circumference or whatever. The Jaden Rashada situation. Obviously, was supposed to go to Florida, flirted with Miami, ultimately signed with Florida, then ended up at Arizona State. Now he's at Georgia. Now he's suing not only the Florida Collective, but also their head coach. What in the world is going on?
Yeah, Jaden Rashada has become a little bit of the lightning rod story of what can go wrong in the NIL world when schools aren't involved and there isn't much structure. So basically, he was promised when he first went to Florida. He claims that he was promised north of $13 million, to commit to play for the Gators, which is a number much higher than really what's realistic and what anybody else is making in that world. But he signed a contract that said he would be making that much, and it quickly found out that Florida didn't have that much money in the bank. And so this is the kind of thing that the schools want to avoid. And you certainly don't want the quarterback suing your head coach as the quarterback's down the road now at Georgia playing against the rival. It is a messy situation. I'm a little surprised it's the only one we've seen in 3 years of doing this where people are throwing around promises that they can't keep. I don't think it's totally uncommon, but the fact that this happened in writing and happened so publicly, Rashad is now suing a school, and it'll be a really interesting case to see how that plays out. And I think that's the exact kind of thing that schools want to try to avoid, because frankly, the University of Florida didn't have too much control over that situation. And yet now they're embroiled in a lawsuit and taking some lumps and then looking pretty bad at the process.
Crazy. Last thing before we let you go, we have a lot of Michigan fans, a lot of Michigan football fans that listen to the show. Can you settle this debate for me? Who was a better college quarterback, Chad Henne or J.J. McCarthy?
Ooh, that's a good one. I mean, you got to go McCarthy, I think. Maybe that's recency bias, but he put up some numbers. He's got the championship ring. Yeah, I don't know. I'm on McCarthy's camp on that one, I think.
Okay, fair enough.
Oh, you
fair enough.
You could argue with Shaw, but not Mr. Dan Murphy.
Hey, man. I think Chad Henne was a very underrated quarterback at the University of Michigan. Even though I'm an Ohio State football fanatic, I don't think J.J. McCarthy ever put up a game like Chad Henne did versus that Ohio State 1v2 game back in 06. Like, I just think that Chad Henne is very overlooked as a Michigan quarterback just based off his senior year production. You look at him starting as a true freshman, sophomore, and his junior year was outstanding. I would take Chad Henne. I think Chad Henne's a top 3 Michigan quarterback.
Fair enough. That 06, early 2000s Michigan is a little before my time of knowing the Big Ten all that well. So I'll trust you on that one. But, man, McCarthy is, according to Jim Harbaugh, he's like the greatest college quarterback of all time. So.
Yeah, so great he didn't draft him.
In Harbaugh, we trust. There you go. ESPN's Dan Murphy, awesome enough to come on and kind of, shed some light on all the ever-going changes in college athletics. Dan, you are the man. We appreciate you, sir, and we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Be good, guys. Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, good stuff. Kenner and Cap, 1410, ESPN Radio.